So you heard earlier in the show about Bobby Hurley's historic recruiting class for the men's basketball program. But the men's squad isn't the only team that should be strong next year. Charlie Turner-Thorne and the Devils women's team return everybody from last year's team. Literally everybody. Alex Gaul has more.
Thanks, guys. Let's talk about some ASU women's basketball. The Devils are coming off a season in which they made the NCAA tournament for the 5th straight year, tying a program record in the process. This is, of course, after losing one of their top players, Sabrina Haynes, just 9 games into the season. But of course, after a strong performance in the Pac-12 tournament, ASU eventually fell to the number 2 seeded Texas Longhorns in the second round of the NCAA tournament. Why are these accomplishments so significant, you ask? Because ASU did it with no seniors. Thus, they return every player to the roster from last season. Not to mention that they also get Sabrina Haynes back from her season-ending ACL injury. And don't forget about their recruiting class. So let's break down the 2018-2019 Sun Devils. The starting 5 projects to be much the same as last year, with now senior Kiana Ibis leading the charge down low, alongside Charnay Johnson-Chapman, who led the team with 6.5 rebounds per game last season. Robbie Ryan and Courtney Ekmark, who both shot over 34% from deep last season, will likely flank the wings, providing perimeter shooting and slashing. Sabrina Haynes also started 6 of the 9 games she played last year and figures as the natural choice at the point guard slot. But it's not the starting lineup that might end up being the hallmark of next year's squad. ASU didn't have much depth last season, and it hurt them when playing experienced physical teams like Texas. This will not be the case this upcoming season, especially because the bench will mix last year's standouts Riley Richardson, Kira Russell, and Jamie Rudin, with strong recruiting class arriving in Tempe this fall. Of the 3 incoming freshmen, I think the one to keep an eye on is Jade Van Hefty. One thing ASU struggled with against some of the Pac-12 powerhouses last season was the lack of a consistent post-scoring presence other than Kiana Ibis. As a versatile 6'1" forward, Van Hefty will have a chance to complete a dominant front court for the Sun Devils. It's also worth noting that Van Hefty continues a strong tradition of recruiting out of the land of Lincoln, joining Katie Hempen and Sophie Bruner as ASU recruits hailing from Illinois. If ASU could compete strongly in the NCAA tournament with no seniors last season, I believe it's very fair to have lofty expectations for next season. Charlie Turner-Thorne will have a very deep and battle-tested squad with contributors both old and new. I believe they will challenge for the Pac-12 championship, compete in the NCAA tournament, and have a legitimate and realistic chance to make the program's first Final Four in program history.